Hello everyone, it's Jan, Thisalots. Welcome to my channel. October is finally here, so it's a perfect time to pour yourself some hot cocoa or tea or anything else, maybe coffee, whatever you like. Sit down, relax and watch me draw. Or maybe you can take out your drawing stuff, your watercolors or your pencils or gouache or your tablet, your iPad. Or maybe you just want to draw with me in Clip Studio Paint, just as I do. So sit back, relax, and draw with me, and we will talk a little bit. First of all, I want to apologize if some of my words sound off, or maybe I make some mistakes, because as you might know, English is not my native language. And this video is made without any script, so let's hope I will be able to talk with you about some interesting and relaxing stuff through to all of the video, which is 30 minutes. And I really hope that you will watch till the end and see how I manage this technique from grayscale to color, which I never basically studied before. I always preferred to work with color right away, but well, everybody tries something for the first time, and this is how I decided to try this method, because I've seen so many artists do this and kind of advise to try doing this to people who are aspiring artists such as myself, and so I decided to do this. And as you can see, I'm painting characters from Lord of the Rings, because I have this habit. Each autumn I make a Lord of the Rings marathon and rewatch everything, because this fandom kind of gives me that vibes, you know. I kind of feel that the autumn is not itself, like it's not perfect without watching Lord of the Rings. The feeling of such sweet sadness, especially when the elves are living for the grey shores and grey heavens. It's something that kind of gives me that bittersweet feeling. So I decided to draw the characters from this wonderful movie, because I think Lord of the Rings is kind of the best movie adaptation of the book ever. Nothing ever matches the perfection of this book adaptation to me, even though I know it's not 100% accurate. I know it does have some flaws, and you know, the Tolkien purists, as I would call them, like, well, it's not that I disrespect them, it's just that people who really know the professor's books really well to the core, they do have some points where they criticize the movies, but still I think that it's so exquisite, so well done, so much love has been poured into it that whenever I watch it, I never get tired of it. I always learn something new, and it brings such incredible sweet nostalgia to me, because I first watched this movie when I was probably 18 or something. I was really very young, and I watched it in the movie theater, and I was blown away, because for those times the quality of the pretty much everything in this movie was like nothing we've ever seen before. And the interesting thing is that I rewatched it now in 2020, which is a horrible year. Yes, it is. So rewatching Lord of the Rings, and it was one of the best things that happened to me this year. So rewatching it made me feel that, in fact, it still looks so good. I mean, everything, the visual, the CGI, the creatures, the design, the costumes, the color, the filming, the cinematography, everything looks so perfect. I haven't seen anything yet which can match it, that can go up to that incredible level of professionalism and artistic quality. What was really interesting, whenever I rewatched the original trilogy, and I don't really like The Hobbit. Hobbit does not perform as good for me. It's okay, but not so perfect. So each time I rewatch it, I see that there's something new in it for me, that I am growing and evolving as a person, and my level of appreciation and understanding of this movie changes each time. Probably this is why I like to return to this story, because when I was younger, probably I was just a little bit shallow, but what I've seen handsome Aragorn, which you can see me drawing here because I just couldn't skip that. I just love him too much. He was my teenage crush. I was so obsessed with him. And also very handsome Legolas, who was not a crush of mine, but still I really enjoyed his looks. Even though here on my drawing you can see that he is on the first plane. I don't know why, I know why actually. I remember when I started drawing this picture, when I started thinking about that I want to draw Lord of the Rings fan art, I gave myself a challenge since I already knew that I'm going to do this grayscale to color version. So I wanted to play with the values and I wanted to give myself a pretty difficult challenge, so I make the lightest and the coolest values and hues in the front plane and the darkest and the warmest hues on the back plane, because Aragorn definitely is warmer in color and darker because his hair are black and his clothes are also black and brown, while Legolas has very shiny silver hair and very shiny also silver outfit. So I wanted to see how I can manage with this. But back to the point which I was talking about, that whenever I see this, something changes. So when I was younger, I seen handsome men, beautiful screenshots, beautiful scenery. The elves were magnificent, the dwarves were funny, the Rohirrims were fierce. But I didn't really get too deep into the amazing emotional meaning of this story, into the philosophy of it. Yes, of course, I did feel emotional and sentimental about Frodo and Sam's friendship. And actually, everybody. Of course, I cried when Boromir died. Of course, I was shocked when Gandalf died. Even though by the moment when I saw the movies, I read the books, I knew that what's going on and what will happen after. It was really something that I knew would happen, but still it was filmed so well. And the level of emotional involvement was so huge that I did feel like, no, Gandalf, no. It was funny how I got so invested that it was also a tragedy for me. So I mostly was focusing on I wouldn't say that it was not too deep, but I would say like it was about the first layer of things in this movie. And when I rewatched it recently, probably it was such a perfect timing for me, because during all our struggles in those troubled times, sometimes I felt like I really needed this. I was so touched by the smallest details. For example, the talk between Gandalf and Pippin, and the song, and how amazingly fierce the hobbits were to fight for each other. And suddenly I grasped this idea of the magnitude, the glory of the small man. It's funny that when I was younger, I didn't really pay that much attention to hobbits because they seemed a little bit too trivial for the younger and probably much more stupider me. I was much more infatuated with elves and with Rohirrims, with Aragorn, with Gandalf, with Saruman, with everything so mystical and powerful and magical and beautifully designed. But now, this time, the hobbits was the focus of my attention, because I suddenly realized that actually, in reality, no matter how much, for example, I would like to be a beautiful elf or a strider and ranger, in reality, hobbits are much closer to me and my friends, because we're just simple people, you know, we just live and we eat and laugh and try to overcome all the struggles without losing faith, even though we are just regular people, you know, who would like to be left in peace and just live their little regular lives, which we do really cherish so much, because everything we love and hold dear is this little life with ours, our loved ones, our jobs, the streets that we walk, that we enjoy, the food that we love. And this quarantine and this whole situation with the pandemic, it just showed to me how incredibly important all of those little things are, and how fragile the world that we used to live in is, and how all of us need this support, this friendly hand, this connection with others, and how easily we are deprived of it, how easily it is to get lonely when you are unable simply to go and meet your friend just to have a cup of tea in a nice place, and that it was so amazingly important, and it taught me how to cherish, and I really felt so nostalgic. And this time when I was rewatching The Lord of the Rings, I cried so hard whenever I saw hobbits show their amazing love and friendship and devotion to each other, and I felt for them. I feel like this is me, this is about me, this is about my struggle in those troublous times. Of course, thankfully, thank God, I'm not in that kind of struggle as they have, but I felt this projection, and the way they held on to each other, had a very therapeutic effect on me, and it made me communicate with my friends more, even though online, like write to my parents, my dad and my stepmom, to hold on to those little things in life, like hobbits did, like breakfast, all those funny talks about breakfast and second breakfast and lunch. How touching to watch Sam always try to cheer Frodo up, to cook something nice. That was, I don't know, those little mundane things, this power of simple men just being good to each other. I really needed this. I really needed this spark of hope. And yet still, in this picture, I draw Legolas and Aragorn, as you might see, because there was another reason why I do this and why I chose them. This whole nostalgic talk, as you might probably noticed, made me rethink a lot of things and wander back into the memories of the times when I first watched this movie. And it was kind of crucial for me because I met my husband online in an internet forum dedicated to the fans of the movie. So I was really active in the early Russian fandom of Lord of the Rings, and in fact I must add that in Russia Lord of the Rings is a whole huge culture. I believe that it was the first ever serious fandom culture we've ever had. I've heard from some of my friends from Western countries that I guess the very first big fandom in US and Europe was Star Trek. But in Russia it was Lord of the Rings. And that's where all the LARP stuff began. People were having all those conventions, writing fan fiction. Well, we didn't even know this word. They were writing beautiful songs dedicated to the Tolkien's world. They were creating fan art. They were creating plays which they performed, even musicals. There was a lot of fan-based creativity. I believe in the end of 80s, even before the fall of the Soviet Union. And after the Soviet Union came to an end and we gained access to the worldwide fandom culture, and also the Lord of the Rings finally went out as a movie, it was an amazing burst of creativity. So that's how I met my husband, that's how I met a lot of my friends, which I'm still friends with for years. And there was one thing which was kind of spoiling for me, because I knew that I was transgender back then, and I knew that I was gay back then. The thing is that back then, unfortunately, the Russian fandom society was very homophobic and extremely transphobic, and especially in the Tolkien fandom, which was the first one, then came Harry Potter. But the Tolkien was like a sacred, huge, sacred cow, an amazing group of people, which some of them genuinely almost took Tolkien's world in a sort of a religious way, like they probably even believed that it did exist somewhere, which I absolutely don't judge. It's just that they were so damn serious about this. And it was absolutely 100% forbidden to have gay ships there. Like if you were shipping some characters who were, of course every character in Lord of the Rings is not gay, obviously, because Tolkien was a Catholic and he was absolutely 100% heteronormative. But if you did this, you would be forced to face so much negativity and hate and shame that I didn't do this. The second reason why I didn't do this was because I didn't know how to draw back then, and now I can. Probably the only gay ship which was so accepted was Legolas and Gimli, which I perfectly understand because it's like their friendship is so sweet. The second one, which had a lot of debate around it, was Frodo and Sam, and a lot of people were like, how dare you think that this wonderful, beautiful friendship has something sexual about it? All other ships, for example, like Aragorn and Legolas, like they were 100% considered to be blasphemy, because Aragorn was absolutely in love with Arwen and Legolas was out of question. And I always felt very inferior because I did ship them in my head, but I would never go and discuss this. Of course, later on, some people started doing this, for sure. Some brave people started doing this, mainly under the Western influence, because they saw those kind of artworks and fanfics coming from Western fans, from English-speaking fandom. But I didn't have the heart back then to do this because it would cause so much hate. And now, when I felt nostalgic about this, I just wanted to give this to myself. I wanted something which I never had, something which I never did, but wanted to all those years ago. And it's not that I find it logical. It just made me, I even now I can feel that I'm trying to explain why this ship is valid, even though actually it doesn't need explanation, doesn't need all those stuff. It's valid because I want it to, but I still feel kind of restrained deep inside that I need to explain why I ship them. Probably just because I like them visually together and I have the full right to do so. But also, it just made me think that in all huge world of fantasy, there is so little canon gay ships or bisexual ships. And it just made me wonder what a world I would grow up into, what a world I would be shaped as a person in, if there would be more canon gay ships. What it would be like if, for real, Aragorn and his human elf love story did not happen with Arwen, and she's beautiful. I don't mind this heteroship. It's just that like a fantasy of mine. What it would feel like for me as a young person back then, that his love interest would be Legolas, and that their whole story together, when they fight together, how they get to know each other, how they travel together, how they survive all the struggles they had to face, how they fight for their friends, how they survive the battles they had to participate in, how they feel each time they prepare for the next battle and the night before it and then after it. And this would shape and forge their relationship, and how they would stay in the Middle Earth and rebuild it, and that Legolas would help Aragorn rebuild it, and then later on probably they would live, like Legolas would take Aragorn with him. I don't know. I just wanted to imagine how differently I would feel right now as a grown-up, as an adult, if I would have seen more stories like that on the screen, that it wouldn't be such a rarity, and that it wouldn't be focused, main subject wouldn't be the gay aspect of it, even though I'm gay, I love this, but like this whole story, that the slow burn, relationship development, the character development, and like it would be as much important. I was thinking about this, and I felt both sad and hopeful, because of course since then a lot of things changed, and I know that now I can do this, I can paint this ship, I can imply that Aragorn looks at Legolas with sort of anxiety and maybe desire and maybe romantic or sexual interest, and that Legolas feels that but is uncertain how he might respond to it, because he feels that it's hard for an elf to be in love with a human, because this probably is a little bit doomed. So he goes through the same struggles that Arwen went through in the canon, and that I can do this right now, and probably nobody is going to judge me, or those who would, like, they are not really worth listening to. And this is a huge win, really. We haven't won the war, but we did win a lot of battles as a community, because we are much more vocal right now. We have a lot of people who support us right now, and nobody gets surprised, at least in my bubble, in my social bubble, knowing that I ship gay ships, that I use male pronouns, that I am a gay trans man, and I'm non-binary also, since I'm not going through any surgery, and I don't look like your classic macho male, and a lot of people accept me. So many things has changed for the best, and yet we haven't won the war. Probably like in Lord of the Rings, they did defeat the Sauron, they did destroy the ring, but I remember that Tolkien wanted to write another novel, which he didn't manage to because he died, and his son was collecting his drafts. That this novel should have been probably after some years after Aragorn's death, and his son was in power, and he wanted to tell the story about how people quite soon, in terms of the history of this world, forgotten about how the ring altered the world, how evil possessed people's minds, like Denethor, and how easily this all became sort of a legend, and how other evil started to emerge, especially since the elves they left and humans were left to take care of the Middle-earth for himself, no Gandalf to save them. It was kind of a really sad story, and I believe that also Tolkien didn't want to, not that he didn't have the time to write it, but he also didn't want to, because he felt like it's too bitter, too rooted in the reality of our world, so he abandoned the idea. But the point is that I believe that even though, as I said, we did win a lot of battles in terms of LGBTQ plus society, our community, we haven't won the war, and our victories are so fragile. It's so easy to lose what we've got. And sometimes, the evil comes from unaccepted places, like, for example, all of this turf discourse, which also comes from within the LGBTQ society. And I've seen this so much from so many people, not just turfs, but also from people I didn't expect it to. So we do really need a lot of hope right now, and we really need to hold on and to do the best what we can with the time that we have. That little dialogue, when Gandalf says that we only are given the time that we have, and we can just do something with it that we can. I'm sorry, it's very hard for me to quote it correctly, because I'm trying to translate it from the Russian version in my head. And when the Hobbit says that I don't want to be in this, I don't want to be a part of all those events, I'm just a small hobbit, I want to stay in my little house and just live my little life. And Gandalf says that you can only do what you can. And this is what I feel right now in this whole situation. And it does give me some hope, and it does give me some reason to continue and to look into our future with some optimism, hopefully. by the way, while I've been talking about all those philosophical things, as you can see, I managed to almost finish the grayscale picture. So I started from the sketch and then I render it to the almost finished version in grayscale. And now you can see how I do the magic, how I color it using the layer blending modes and gradient maps. And actually I did really enjoy the process. It was kind of hard for me to not work with color because I'm so used to navigate my whole painting process through color. And it's funny because there was a time when I thought that I'm not really into color, I'm more a kind of a line art artist, but when I started to learn how to work with color, it kind of captured me. And I really liked this method, even though honestly I can feel that in the end, when I came to a finished version of this painting, the colors I came up with were probably a little bit poorer than what I would have done if I painted it with color from the start. But what did turn out to be much better is the values. And as the research of the values and how they work and how they create the mood, this exercise and this method is amazing. Like, I really should do something else with this coloring method because it does help to create the drama and the dynamic of the picture with only values, with lights and darks and middle tones. And I would absolutely 100% recommend this method, even not as a basic one, even though for some it's like the preferred method, but just as an exercise. I always wanted to recreate that scene in Lothlorien when Legolas and Aragorn talk about Gandalf's death, and I still remember that moment, the beautiful music, that moonlight shining in Legolas' hair, and how they talk about elves lamenting Gandalf, and Aragorn says, and what are they singing? Legolas responds that he hasn't got the heart to tell him because the grief is still too near, and they look into each other's eyes. And when I was watching this movie, I was just like, oh, this is such a sweet moment, even though it's sad and they share a common grief. But oh my god, how I wish that it would have been a moment in their romantic journey. And I wanted to recreate that scene to give myself just that. That is why I didn't make them kiss or hug or, I don't know, do anything like sexy or something, because I just wanted it to be a very subtle, very delicate moment of emotional union, a gaze, a feeling, a vibe, nothing more than that. And it's interesting that I see how it worked, how they don't look at each other, but they do connect. And I really hope that I managed to channel this through my drawing, that you can see how it communicates through the painting, how they have this connection between them, even though it's not too straightforward. That there is a tension, there is romance, there is even some desire, but it's so delicate. Probably it's the first moment when Aragorn thought of Legolas in sort of a romantic way. I don't know. Tell me in the comments, please, if you feel that the same way that I do. And tell me, what are your thoughts about the subject that I've been talking about? How do you feel about Lord of the Rings? Do you love it? What the story speaks about to you, and where did you first read it or seen it? And also, how do you feel and how do you think about people shipping characters from this book and from this movie in a gay way? I really hope that you don't mind that and that you enjoy my view of those characters. So please like this video and subscribe to my channel. By liking this video, you're really helping other people to see me more, and you support me and give me the feeling that what I do is appreciated and that you like it. And also, if you will subscribe to my channel, you won't miss all other cool stuff I'm posting here. And I'm really trying hard to make the quality of my videos better, to make them more attractive and even educational and also interesting. So if you have any suggestions or any sort of constructive criticism, please feel free to let me know of your opinion, because I would really appreciate it. I really need this to grow and evolve. And no matter if you are a new subscriber or an oldie, I'm still so grateful to you for being here, for giving me some of your time, for watching my videos, for helping me to grow as an art YouTuber. This is something that I really want to achieve. I really want people to watch my videos and like them. And it also happens thanks to you. So have a wonderful day, night, evening, morning, whatever way you are, and come back again.